Hello everyone, I am B. Shobharani from the Department of Biology, Vidyashram Pre-University College, Mysore, the Temple of Excellence. Dear 2nd PUC students, hope you remember in my session 1 of this chapter 2 called Sexual Reproduction, what did we learn in this session 2 of chapter 2 of sexual reproduction in flowering plants? Hope you all remember we studied about what is a flower. Flower is nothing but a fascinating structure of angiosperms. Then we studied about the parts of a flower. A typical hibiscus flower we have taken as an example. Then we studied about the 4 whorls of a flower. Then we moved on to the pre-fertilization events. So in my today's session, that is session 2 of this very important chapter called Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants, what are we going to learn in today's session then? In today's session, we are going to study about the pre-fertilization events, and particularly we are going to study about a very important reproductive structure called androecium, which contains stamens, and we'll be studying about the transverse section of microsporangium. Then we'll be studying about microsporogenesis. Then we'll be studying about a very important structure called structure of pollen grain, and also we'll be studying about more about this pollen grains. So let me move on to the first slide of this session called sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Hope you all remember in the previous session we studied that flower is a fascinating organ of an angiosperm plant, or it is a modified shoot meant for sexual reproduction, right? And here several hormonal and structural changes initiate or differentiate and helps in the development of the floral primordium. So hormones also play a great role for the flowering of for the process of flowering, and also it is accompanied by the process of formation of inflorescence. As you know, inflorescence is nothing but a cluster of flowers or bunch of flowers which bears the flower buds and flowers, right? And very important thing is a typical flower, particularly when we talk about a bisexual flower, consists of 2 very important reproductive structure. That is, the flower consists of the male reproductive structure called androecium and the female reproductive structure called gynoecium. So the male reproductive structure is called androecium and the female reproductive structure is called gynoecium. As we have studied in my first session, that androecium, the units of androecium is called stamens and the units of gynoecium is called carpels. Now let us study in detail about androecium and the stamens and the structure of microsporangium. Now, this androecium consists of, as I said, whorl of stamens which represent the reproductive organ. So, the androecium consists of what? What are the units of androecium called? It is called stamens. And it is this stamens which is going to produce what we call it as pollen grain. Pollen grain, which is the very important male gamete, right? And the gynoecium consists of carpels, which represent what? Gynoecium represents the female reproductive organ, but carpels represents the units, right? Now let us study about this androecium, pollen sac and anther. So what is androecium? Androecium is the male reproductive structure of a flower which contains stamens. So I think you can see here, this is the stamen, right? And I'm going to explain in detail in the next slide also, right? This stamen consists of what? A long slender filament, and the terminal portion consists of what? This is the filament, right? And this is the terminal portion is called as anther. So this anther is nothing but a 4-sided structure, or we call it as what? Tetragonal structure, consisting of what? 4 microsporangia. Here you can see. So each anther Usually the anther is bilobed structure. Usually it is bilobed club shaped structure, and here you can see that each anther consists, it is a four-sided structure or tetragonal consisting of 4 microsporangia, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and where are located at the corners. Here you can see they are located at the corners, 2 in each lobe, 2 in each lobe, right? And this microsporangia will later develop into what? Pollen sacs, right? You remember that is the microsporangia later develop into what? Pollen sacs, and pollen sacs later are packed with pollen grains. Hope you remember, hope you understand what I have explained. I'll repeat once again. Androecium is nothing but male reproductive structure of a flower, which consists of what? Stamens. So what is a typical stamen? A typical stamen, that is what we are going to study in the next slide, right? So androecium is the male reproductive structure of a flower which contains stamens. And what are stamens? Stamens are nothing but the units of androecium. And when you see the different species of plants, the flowers are not of the same type, as you all know, and so also even the stamens are not of the same type. The number and length of stamens are variable in flowers of different species. That is what you can see here. See, this is one type of stamen, and this is one type of, this is a typical hibiscus flower stamen, right? Here you can see this is one shape, this is also one shape, this is also one shape. So what I mean to say here is the number and length of stamens are variable, that is they are different in flowers of different species, right? Now a typical stamen, as I said, consists of what? Consists of a long slender stalk called filament, and the terminal portion consists of what? Anther. So what is androecium? Androecium is the male reproductive structure of a flower. It contains stamens. So what are stamens? Stamens are the units of androecium. Do you think all the stamens are of the same type in all the flowers? No. The number and length of stamens are variable in flowers of different species. Usually a typical stamen consists of what? Consists of a filament and an anther. Now let us study about the stamen in detail. Filament, as I said, is a long and slender structure, right? And as I said, this is the long slender structure. So this is what we call it as the terminal part of a stamen, which is called anther, right? Which is usually bilobed. You can see here it is bilobed and it is club shaped, bilobed and club shaped. And usually a typical angiosperm stamen is always bilobed, right? And the anther it consists of what we call it as it is four-sided structure. So anther is a four-sided structure where we also use a word called tetragonal, right? So anther is a terminal and bilobed structure which is a four-sided structure consisting of what? 4 microsporangia located where? At the corners. Here you can see it is the anther is a four-sided structure, that is tetragonal, consisting of 4 microsporangia located where? Located at the corners. Two lobes in each, that is 2 microsporangia in each lobe, right? As I said, it is bilobed structure, and each lobe have 2 chambers. Here you can make out each lobe has 2 chambers, hence we use the word called dithecous, hence they are called as dithecous, right? And as I said, the microsporangia later develop into what? Pollen sacs, and the pollen sacs are packed with what? Pollen grains. So what are pollen sacs then? The microsporangium develop further and become what? Pollen sacs, and they extend longitudinally throughout the length of an anther and are packed with what? Packed with pollen grains. What is the nature of a stamen? Stamen is a typical stamen consists of a long or a slender stalk called filament, right? And at the terminal region, what is present? Anther is present. And anther is what? It is a four-sided structure. We can also use a word called tetragonal, consisting of what? 4 microsporangia located at the corners. 2 in each lobe, right? Each lobe having 2 chambers, hence the name dithecous. And the microsporangia later develop into what? Pollen sacs. And pollen sacs are packed or later produce what? Pollen grains. As I said, pollen grains are nothing but the male gametes, right? Now, moving on to the structure of anther or microsporangium. This is a structure of an young anther. This is a very, very important diagram from examination point of view. This is a very important diagram from examination point of view. Now, let us study the structure of an young anther. You can also come across the structure of a mature anther. So, in exam, they might ask the structure, describe in detail the structure TS of a young anther, or describe in detail the structure of a mature anther. So it is very, very important. This diagram is very, very important from examination point of view. So all of you know there is orientation. What do you mean by TS, transverse section? You might have heard about the orientation called CS, cross section, LS, longitudinal section. So in TS, how does the microsporangium or the young anther looks, right? So here you come across an young anther, that is in TS it is circular in outline. So you can see that it is circular in outline, and it consists of 4 layers. What are the 4 layers? One is called epidermis. Hope you remember I told you that is each anther is a 4-sided structure. You can see 4-sided structure consisting of what? 4 microsporangia located at the corners, right? So this anther, TS of young anther, consists of 4 layers. What are the 4 layers? One is called epidermis, the other one is called, the inner layer is called endothecium, then the middle layer and the tapetum. What are the 4 layers? One is called epidermis, endothecium, middle layer and tapetum, right? So you come across, it is surrounded by 4 wall layers, namely epidermis, endothecium, middle layers and tapetum. Now let us understand what is the role played by these 4 layers. The 3 layers, namely the epidermis, endothecium and middle layer, perform the function of protection, right? And also it helps the anther to dehisce. What do you mean by dehisce? Though this part has to open up or it has to break open, then only the pollen grains that are formed in this particular sporogenous tissue are released. A good number of pollen grains are released or dehisced. So that is the very important function of these 3 layers. Hope you have understood what is the function of these 3 layers, namely epidermis, endothecium and middle layer. Now you may get a doubt as to what is the function of this inner tapetum. The innermost wall layer, that is called tapetum, which nourishes the developing pollen grains. So the tapetum nourishes the developing pollen grain. So this is a very important concept to be learned, and this is a very important diagram also from examination point of view, right? Now, as I said, the cells of tapetum possess dense cytoplasm and generally has more than 1 nucleus. So what is the nature of the tapetum? As I said, tapetum is the innermost layer which provides nourishment to the developing pollen grains or to the developing pollen grains, right? Now here, as I said, here you can see the structure. One part of it is expanded here. That is what is shown here. As I said, anther, young anther is a 4-sided or tetragonal in structure, right? And here you can see that the tapetum has a dense cytoplasm and has more than 1 nucleus. And one more thing you can see in the picture, when the anther is young, the microsporangium contains a very, very important tissue called sporogenous tissue, where at the center. So this is the sporogenous tissue. So the young microsporangium contains what? A sporogenous tissue at the center. It's a very, very important concept. And this sporogenous tissue further undergoes meiosis to produce microspore tetrads. It is in a cluster of 4, hence the name microspore tetrads. So what is the function of sporogenous tissue? Where is it present? It is present at the center of the microsporangium, right? And what is the role played by this sporogenous tissue? It undergoes what? Meiosis to produce what? Microspore tetrads. Tetrads means what? Cluster of 4 is called as microspore tetrads. And each cell of tetrad is called as pollen mother cell. So each cell of the sporogenous tissue or each cell of tetrad has the potential to develop into what? Microspore mother cell. That is each cell of sporogenous tissue is called pollen mother cell, PMC, or it is otherwise called microspore mother cell, PMC or MMC. That is, I repeat, each cell of sporogenous tissue, it is called what? Pollen mother cell, or it is otherwise called microspore mother cell. And as the anther matures, the microspore tetrads are, as I said, as the anther matures, the sporogenous tissue undergoes what? Meiosis to produce what? Microspore tetrads. And later, as the anther matures, the microspore tetrads dissociate and develop the pollen grains, right? And as I said, particularly in young microsporangium or in young anther, several thousands of microspores are produced, which will be released through a process called dehiscence. What do you mean by dehiscence? Dehiscence is nothing but opening up. Here it breaks open. So all the pollen grains that are formed in the sporogenous tissue will later develop into what? Undergo meiosis and develop into pollen grains. And that will be released to this process called dehiscence. So this is a very, very important concept to be learned, and particularly this diagram is very, very important. Then this is the structure of a mature anther. Here you can see there is a dehiscence taking place here, and all the pollen grains, you can see the pollen grains here, all the pollen grains will be released. So that is one way of the release of the male gamete called pollen grains. As you know, all the pollen grains will not be successful in falling on the stigmatic surface of a flower. Several thousands of pollen grains are produced to compensate the loss, because all the pollen grains will not be successful on landing on the stigmatic surface to carry on a very important process called fertilization. So maybe that is the reason why several thousands of each microsporangium produces several thousands of microspores or pollen grains to compensate the loss. So as I said, structure of microsporangium, it consists of what? Epidermis, then endothecium, middle layer, and tapetum. As I said, it is also called as microsporangium. What are the four layers? These three are called outer layers, namely epidermis, endothecium, and middle layer. What is the function of these three layers? To provide protection to the microsporangium. Then what is the function of tapetum? To nourish the developing pollen grains. Hope you have understood. Now moving on to the next very important concept called microsporogenesis. As I said, microsporogenesis is nothing but the process of formation of microspores from the pollen mother cells. As I said, each cell of sporogenous tissue is called PMC, or it is otherwise called MMC. So each cell of the sporogenous tissue, as I said, where is it present? In the center of the microsporangium. And this sporogenous tissue will undergo what? Will undergo meiosis to produce what? Microspore tetrads. As it is found in cluster of 4, hence the name microspore tetrads. So as the anther matures, what will happen to this microspore tetrads? They will dissociate and develop into what? Pollen grains. And as I said, each microsporangium produces several thousands of pollen grains. They are released through the dehiscence of the anther, right? And viability of pollen. What do you mean by viability? The capacity of the pollen grain to be functional is called viability, right? Now moving on to the structure of a pollen grain. So this is the structure of a pollen grain. This is also a very important diagram from examination point of view. Now let us study what is the structure of a pollen grain. Usually you can see that a typical pollen grain is a male gametophyte, right? And it is spherical in shape. And usually pollen grain measures around 25 to 50 mm in length. In length, it is 25 to 50 mm in length, right? And each, that is the pollen grain, consists of two walls, two very important walls. Outer is called exine and inner is called intine. So the outer wall is called as exine and the inner wall is called as intine. So I repeat, that is pollen grain is nothing but a male gametophyte. Usually it is spherical in shape. You can see the diagram here, and it measures around what? What is the measurement? Around 25 to 50 microns in length. And each pollen grain consists of two wall layers. Outer wall layer is called exine and inner wall layer is called intine, right? Now what is the important role of, here you can see the outer is exine and inner is intine, and this exine layer is made up of a very important substance called sporopollenin. This is made up of sporopollenin. What is the uniqueness of this sporopollenin? This sporopollenin is highly resistant organic material. This is a resistant organic material. What do you mean by resistant organic material? It can resist high acid or alkali, right? So far no enzyme has been discovered that can damage or spoil this sporopollenin. So that is the reason why the pollen grains are also used as fossils. They are also used as fossils too, and they can be preserved also as fossils. They can be preserved to study about the pollen grains also. They can be preserved as what? Fossils, right? I repeat, each pollen grain is made up of two wall layers or two layers. Outer is called exine and inner is called intine. But you can make out that exine is a discontinuous layer. Why do you call it as a discontinuous layer? At certain regions you can see there is an opening, there is an aperture, and this aperture is called the germ pore. You may wonder what is the role played by this germ pore. After the formation of the two male gametes, they are released through this germ pore. Where do you come across this germ pore? On the exine layer, which you don't find it in the inner layer. Intine, the inner layer called intine, is a continuous layer which is made up of cellulose and pectin. So what is the chemical composition of the outer layer? Exine is made up of a chemical substance called sporopollenin. And as I said, sporopollenin is highly resistant organic material. It is resistant to high acid and high alkali, right? Whereas the inner layer called intine is a continuous layer. You don't find anywhere any break. But here you can see there is a small aperture. What do you call that aperture on the exine? As germ pore. What is the function of the germ pore? To facilitate the movement of the male gametes and also to form what we call it as pollen tube. And pollen tube is nothing but a significance of pollen germination, and this pollen tube carries what? Carries the two male gamete, right? And here you can see that each pollen grain is made up of two types of cells. One is called as the vegetative cell, the other one is called the generative cell. One is called the vegetative cell, that is each pollen grain is made up of two types of cells. What are the two types of cells? One is called the vegetative cell, the other one is called the generative cell. Usually the vegetative cell is larger in size and it is filled with and it is having abundant food materials, and it has a irregular nucleus. Here you can see irregular. So this part is called as the vegetative part, that is the vegetative cell, and this part is called as the vegetative cell, and this is called as the generative cell. I repeat, pollen grain is nothing but a male gametophyte. What is the shape? It is spherical in shape, measuring around 25 to 50 mm in length, and each pollen grain is made up of two layers or two wall layers. Outer one is called exine and the inner one is called intine. Exine is made up of what? Sporopollenin. Intine is made up of what? That is cellulose and pectin. And each pollen grain consists of two type of cells. What is the two type of cells? One is called the vegetative cell, the other one is called the generative cell. And vegetative cell is larger in size and it is made up of irregular nucleus, whereas the generative generative cell is a smaller in size and it floats in the cytoplasm of the vegetative cell. It floats in the cytoplasm of the vegetative cell and it is spindle shaped. Here you can see it is spindle shaped and contains dense cytoplasm and nucleus. And it contains what? Dense cytoplasm and nucleus, right? And this generative cell will undergo mitotic division, not meiotic division, children. It undergoes what? Mitotic cell division to produce two male gametes. Two male gametes. Hope you remember. What do you mean by pollen germination? Pollen germination is nothing but the process of formation of a pollen tube, and generative cell will undergo what? Mitosis to produce two male gametes, and those two male gametes are carried in the pollen tube. This is the first exercise of your practical, where you have to come across one very important experiment called pollen germination, where you can observe the formation of a small pollen tube, right? So that you can understand when you do the practicals, you will understand. So what is microsporogenesis, children? What is microsporogenesis? The process of formation of microspores from pollen mother cells. What are microspores? They are nothing but pollen grain. Right? What is a pollen grain? It is nothing but a male gametophyte. Right? What is viability of pollen? The capacity of a pollen grain to remain functional. Right? Now, moving on to a very important another concept of this chapter called sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Let us know more about the pollen grains. Right? Pollen grains are both, children. They are both beneficial as well as harmful to mankind. How you may wonder, when pollen grains are the male gametes which are going to take part in the process of sexual reproduction, how will they be harmful, right? But there are cases like pollen grains of many species cause allergies, and particularly lung disorders, or what we call it as bronchial afflictions in some people, leading to what? Leading to severe respiratory disorders like asthma and bronchitis. So when they inhale these pollen grains, sometimes it may lead to respiratory disorders like asthma and bronchitis. So but not all the pollen grains, but some pollen grains are harmful to mankind. So when they inhale this, these are nothing but dust like particles, pollen grains. When they inhale it, it may cause the respiratory disorders. Respiratory disorders like what? Like asthma and bronchitis. So this is the harmful effect of pollen grain, right? But I think all of you might have come across a plant called Parthenium, right? You can see in this picture, Parthenium is otherwise called carrot grass, and this was brought to India through imported wheat. And now it has become a dominant species, an alien species, and it is very difficult for us to eradicate it. And the pollen grains of this Parthenium causes what I said, the respiratory disorders like asthma and bronchitis. So it is a weed, it is an unwanted plant. So it just grows luxuriously and it is very difficult for us to eradicate it. And if your surroundings of the house or where you stay, if it is like crowded by such plant called Parthenium, which is otherwise called carrot grass, definitely it may lead to some lung disorders or respiratory disorders like asthma and bronchitis. That is the reason why we have to keep our surroundings clean. Make sure that your surrounding is clean, and if at all you come across this unwanted plant or unwanted weed called Parthenium, it has to be removed immediately. If not, it may cause some lung disorders or respiratory disorders like asthma and bronchitis. That is the harmful effect of pollen grain. But there are some useful effects of the pollen grains also. Then you may wonder, then what is the useful or what is the beneficial aspect of pollen grains? The beneficial aspect of pollen grains is that they are rich in nutrients. So they can also be taken as a supplement for food. Instead of having food, you can just take it as a tablet. So one tablet, it will be like one meal, right? So pollen grains are rich in nutrients. So it will contain all the nutrients that is required, can compensate the food what we eat. So that is the reason pollen grains can also be used as food supplement, but not always, but at times. Like for example, people who go for space can carry these pollen tablets. So instead of, as you know, they cannot carry heavy food, so they can take these pollen tablets and consume it whenever needed. So it is like a supplement for food, right? So here you can see there's one more company called Forever Bee Pollen, where it is used as pollen tablets, and this is the harmful effect of the pollen grain. That this is the picture of a Parthenium. Parthenium is nothing but called carrot grass, which was imported through wheat, and that is how it came to India, and now it has become an alien species. It is very difficult for us to eradicate it. But at the same time, some species or some plants, like some pollen grains of some flowers, can also be used as a pollen tablet, which is used as a food supplement, right? Now, what are the other aspects of the pollen grains? As I said, pollen consumption can also increase what you call it as the performance of athletes and race horses. So, athletes can also use this pollen tablets to enhance their speed, right? So, it can be used to increase the performance of athletes or even the race horses. So, even the race horses are given this pollen tablets so that their running efficiency is increased. As you know, they are very, very important, right? So, the performance of athletes as well as the performance of race horses can be enhanced when they consume such pollen tablets. So, one such example is bee pollen product from England. So, this is the company where you get this bee pollen product, which can be used by the athletes, and also it can be given for the race horses. As I said, what is it going to do? It is going to increase the performance level. And even some larger number of pollen grains can also be preserved. How can you preserve pollen grains? Yes, of course, we can preserve the pollen grains and use for the crop breeding techniques. How? You can preserve them in liquid nitrogen, minus 96 degrees centigrade. So when you store or preserve the pollen grains in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees centigrade, you can preserve them for many years. And such stored pollen grains can be used as what? Can be used as pollen banks. Like we have the sperm bank. So in a similar way, pollen banks are also there where you can use it for the crop breeding programs. I think you want to come across artificial hybridization, where they take the pollen grains of their desire and dust it on the stigmatic surface of another flower to get a desired character of a plant. So this is what is used in artificial hybridization. So maybe, as I said, for the crop breeding programs, you can use such pollen grains which are preserved in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degree centigrade. So these are all the beneficial aspects of pollen grain. As I said, pollen grains is nothing but the male gametophyte, which might be both beneficial or harmful to mankind, right? And as I said, it can be used as a nutrient or as a food, or you can call it as pollen tablet, and it can also be used by the athletes, or for the it can be given as a food, or pollen consumption can be also given to the race horses to increase their speed. And as I said, the pollen grains can be stored in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees centigrade. So such pollen grains can also be used for what? For crop breeding programs. Hope you have understood the concepts what we have discussed in today's session. So in today's session, we discussed about the androecium, then we discussed about the stamens, then we discussed about the structure of TS of young anther and also the process of microsporogenesis. Then we studied about the structure of a pollen grain. All these concepts what we have studied in today's session is very, very important from examination point of view, children, right? Now, in the coming session, what are we going to deal? In continuation of the same chapter called sexual reproduction in flowering plants, what are we going to study in the coming sessions? So far in today's session, we studied about androecium. As you know, androecium is a male reproductive structure. Now we are going to study about gynoecium, which is nothing but a female reproductive structure, and the units of gynoecium is called carpels. Hope you remember the homology there. It is also called what? Megasporophyle. There it is called microsporophyle. Here it is called megasporophyle. Then you will be studying about the structure of ovule, which is called megasporangium. There it is called microsporangium. Male is called microsporangium, female scale, that is the ovule is called megasporangium. Then you will be studying about the outbreeding devices. What are the devices that are adapted by the plants to avoid what? Self-pollination and to enhance cross-pollination. As you know, cross-pollination will help in producing what? Variations. So the plants itself will come out with certain strategies to avoid self-pollination and to enhance cross-pollination. So what are the outbreeding devices? All that we are going to study in the coming session. And in next very important concept, that is about pollination. We have already studied in the previous session. What is pollination? Pollination is nothing but the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a same flower or another flower. Same flower it is called autogamy, and another flower it is called allogamy, or self-pollination and cross-pollination. And also we are going to study about the different agents that is going to bring about the process of pollination. So these are all the things what I am going to cover in the coming session. So till we meet in the next session, goodbye and thank you.